But I guess the one I'll use today is from my time at The RealReal. So the company's a managed marketplace for the resale of authenticated pre-owned luxury goods. That's a mouthful, but it's a consignment model, which means that the company takes possession of all the goods that it sells so that they can be authenticated, and also so that the company takes on all of the work of selling on behalf of the sellers, like taking the photos and writing the descriptions, pricing the product, fulfillment, customer service, everything. And naturally, with all of that work comes a lot of cost. So it was a challenge to define a path to profitability. Most of the resources in the company were and are in sales and operations positions. Salespeople are the people who bring in the products from consigners, often going to their homes and doing it. And the operations people performed all the functions I described in the warehouse or the authentication centers. So it was natural to focus a lot to be productive and efficient in those areas. And while certainly important, that wasn't sufficient. And the model that we had made that clear. But it was really about bringing the organization along to see more holistically about the what truly drove the profitability of the company. So I worked with my FP&A team to build a construct of all of the profitability levers in the company and which ones had the most leverage. And sometimes it was a little bit surprising or counterintuitive. And then we built a framework for how we proposed to get to break even. So the output of that was pretty clear. First, we weren't going to cost cut our way to profitability. We weren't going to drive so much productivity in the warehouses that alone could do it. So we needed to maintain a focus on growth to achieve a certain level of scale that would allow us to cover our fixed costs for things like warehouses and offices and overhead and so forth. So we reframed that. It's not growth at all costs. It's growth for a purpose. It's growth to get to scale. So we put out a specific number for GMV that was kind of the gold standard that would allow us to get to profitability, and reframed our focus from growth to profitable growth. Then we laid out how much leverage there were in other parts of the P&L and really up further toward the top of the P&L. So we used a unit economics framework for this and translated orders into gross profit dollars, variable costs, and fixed costs. And we showed that even with scale and variable expense efficiency, we still needed to improve the gross profit contribution on a per order basis. But at the time, there were no teams responsible for the gross profit levers, which included things like our take rate or the price, what we would keep from the order, average order value, and shipping costs. So we took it upon ourselves to set up cross-functional groups to build a strategy to improve these things. So we did a category and a price point profitability analysis. As take rates varied somewhat between categories. Generally, the lower price goods would never be profitable given the high cost structure, which didn't vary all that much to process a cheaper item. And certain higher price categories were more profitable than others given competitive dynamics. For example, watches are really competitive, so we might only keep 12 to 15%, but a piece of jewelry at the same price point, we could maybe keep 30%. So we worked with all the teams, marketing, merchandising, sales, and product to build a pricing strategy, and by pricing and take rate, to increase our net take rate while maintaining or increasing our average order size, and at the same time improving the product selection and the vibrancy in the marketplace. So a couple of examples what that would have meant. It was taking a higher take rate for lower price products and then working with the sales team to incentivize them to focus on our most profitable categories, things like jewelry and handbags and things like that. And then we built out a central operations team that had experience and responsibility negotiating and driving material savings and shipping costs. So just putting a lot more focus where we could drive a lot of leverage up on the top line. Then we laid out how much variable expense productivity would be needed if we did that. If we got the scale, we increased the gross profit contribution of the order, and we held fixed costs essentially flat, then we're kind of solving for now, what do we really truly need all those people expenses and how productive do they really need to be? And the answer was that if we could do all those other things, the improvements were actually modest and achievable if done consistently, wouldn't require step change. So that kind of gave everyone sort of a sigh of relief, say, okay, this is achievable, and got everybody sort of lined up against Now, and the company is still on this journey, but you still see a lot of that framework in use today with a balanced focus across all three parts of the profitability equation, rather than just a maniacal focus on the most visible one.
Planning Aces is made possible by Planful.